Welcome to War and Untold Stories. Here we explore the hidden side of history. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. In the mid-19th century, the old world stood on a precipice. Empires, built on centuries of tradition and conquest, eyed each other with suspicion across the vast chessboard of Europe and the Near East. At the center of this tension lay a seemingly remote peninsula, a place of sun-drenched coasts and rugged mountains, Crimea. This land would soon become the crucible for a conflict that would drag the world's great powers into a maelstrom of fire, ice, and blood. This is the story of the Crimean War, a clash that not only redrew the map of power, but also reshaped the very nature of warfare, journalism, and medicine forever. It began, as many conflicts do, with a whisper of faith. A dispute between Catholic France and Orthodox Russia over the control of holy sites in the Ottoman Empire ignited a fuse that had been smoldering for decades. Tsar Nicholas I of Russia saw an opportunity to expand his influence over the declining Ottoman Empire, the so-called sick man of Europe. He dreamed of controlling the Black Sea and the strategic straits of the Bosphorus and Dardanelles, securing a warm water port for his navy. But Britain and France saw this as a direct threat to the delicate balance of power in Europe and their own trade routes to the east. Diplomacy faltered, tensions escalated, and in October 1853, the Ottoman Empire, backed by its powerful allies, declared war on Russia. The stage was set for a collision of titans. The first salvos were fired at sea. The Russian Black Sea Fleet, modern and formidable, annihilated an Ottoman squadron at the Battle of Sinop. The attack was brutal and decisive, sending shockwaves through the corridors of power in London and Paris. Public outrage, fueled by sensational newspaper reports, demanded action. Britain and France could no longer stand by. In early 1854, their fleets sailed into the Black Sea, and their armies prepared for an invasion. Their primary objective, the heavily fortified Russian naval base of Sevastopol in Crimea. They believed that by capturing this strategic heart of Russian power in the south, they could cripple the Tsar's ambitions and force a swift end to the war. They could not have been more wrong. The Allied forces landed on the shores of Crimea in September 1854. Their initial victory at the Battle of the Alma was hard-won, clearing the path towards Sevastopol. But instead of a quick assault, the Allies settled in for a long siege. This decision would prove catastrophic. As summer turned to autumn, and autumn gave way to a vicious winter, the war transformed. It was no longer a conflict of grand maneuvers, but one of grim attrition. Soldiers from Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire, clad in uniforms wholly inadequate for the brutal cold, faced an enemy far more relentless than the Russian army: disease, frostbite, and starvation. The supply chains were a logistical nightmare. Provisions rotted on the docks, winter clothing failed to arrive, and the men shivered in threadbare tents amidst a sea of mud and snow. Amidst this grinding siege, moments of shocking violence erupted. On October 25, 1854, the Battle of Balaclava unfolded. It was a day of stark contrasts, of tactical blunders and breathtaking courage. Russian forces attempted to break the siege line, leading to a series of desperate engagements. The stand of the Thin Red Line, where the 93rd Highlanders repelled a Russian cavalry charge, became legendary. But the day is forever remembered for a different charge, one born of miscommunication and doomed valor, the charge of the Light Brigade. Following a garbled order, some 670 British light cavalrymen were sent charging directly into a valley lined with Russian artillery. Into the Valley of Death rode the 600, as Tennyson's famous poem would later lament. It was a magnificent but horrifying spectacle, a futile display of bravery against impossible odds. Cannons roared from three sides, tearing through the ranks of men and horses. The charge was broken, the brigade shattered. It accomplished nothing strategically. but it created an immortal legend of courage and the tragic folly of war. As the siege of Sevastopol dragged on, the true horror of the conflict revealed itself not on the battlefield, but in the squalid field hospitals behind the lines. Wounded soldiers lay in filth, dying more often from infection and disease than from their initial injuries. Cholera, dysentery, and typhus ran rampant. The conditions were hellish, a testament to the utter failure of military medical care. But news of this crisis, reported for the first time by war correspondents like William Howard Russell of The Times, reached a shocked public back in Britain. The reports painted a damning picture of neglect and incompetence, and in response, a figure emerged who would change everything. Her name was Florence Nightingale. Arriving in Scutari, Turkey, with a team of 38 volunteer nurses, Nightingale was met with hostility from army doctors and confronted with conditions beyond belief. The hospital was a pest house, lacking basic sanitation, clean water, and medical supplies. Undeterred, she set to work with ferocious determination. She organized the wards, scrubbed the floors, and demanded clean linens and proper food. She established a laundry, ensuring patients had clean bedding. At night, she would walk the endless corridors, a single lamp in her hand, offering comfort to the suffering and dying soldiers. She became known as the Lady with the Lamp, a symbol of compassion in a world of cruelty. Her revolutionary methods, based on sanitation and professional care, drastically reduced the mortality rate. Florence Nightingale didn't just save lives, she laid the foundation for modern nursing and demonstrated that care and hygiene were as crucial to an army as bullets and cannons. For 11 long months, the armies battered each other at Sevastopol. The fighting was relentless trench warfare, a grim foreshadowing of the First World War. Sorties, bombardments, and bloody assaults on fortifications like the Malakoff and the Redan became a daily routine of slaughter. Finally, in September 1855, after a massive coordinated assault, French forces captured the Malakoff fortress, the key to the city's defenses. The Russian position became untenable. That night, they abandoned Sevastopol, blowing up their forts and scuttling the remains of their fleet. The great naval base had fallen. The war was not yet over, but its climax had passed. Diplomatic channels reopened, and in early 1856, a weary Tsar Alexander II, who had succeeded his father Nicholas, sued for peace. The Crimean War officially ended with the Treaty of Paris in 1856. The Black Sea was declared neutral territory, closing it to all warships and dismantling Russian fortifications along the coast. Russia's southern expansion was halted, and the Ottoman Empire's integrity was, for a time, preserved. But the cost was immense. Over 500,000 soldiers had perished, the vast majority not from combat, but from disease. The war had been a brutal lesson for all involved. It exposed the incompetence of aristocratic military leadership and the urgent need for logistical and medical reform. It was the first war to be extensively documented by photographers and reported by modern war correspondents, bringing the grim reality of the battlefield into the homes of ordinary people for the first time. It shattered the concert of Europe that had kept the peace for nearly 40 years, paving the way for a new era of nationalistic conflict. As the sun rises over the now quiet fields of Balaclava, it illuminates the graves of empires and the birth of the modern world, a world forever changed by the fire and sacrifice on this distant Crimean shore. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. The stories of these soldiers, nurses, and leaders remind us of the profound human cost of conflict and the enduring power of courage and compassion. If you found this documentary insightful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history's most pivotal moments. We'll see you next time.